back. It's about 28 minutes past the top of the hour, but a good place to begin our conversation that continues a little bit later on. And I have William Kabogo, Pioneer Governor, Kiambu County. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And Isaac Ruto, Pioneer Governor, Bomet County, first time on the round table. You know, he's a veteran. He comes. But asante sana kwa kuja.
Asante, thank you.
So let's begin this conversation with the most important discourse going on in the country currently. Do you think, gentlemen, the ceasefire agreement between President Ruto and Raila Odinga, one, was necessary and two, will last? Let me begin with you.
Thank you, Ken. It's been a long time. And yes, it's me. You know, when I came in, you looked at me and you're like, who is this? It's me. My hair, my hairstyle, my choice. Okay. But it's always good to come to this show. Yeah. Yes, indeed, I think the ceasefire was necessary because this country is about 48, 49 million Kenyans. It's not about Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga or His Excellency the President. And peace is what Kenya needs. And you know, I've always said, Kenyans look at government as the giver. That government comes to office to give you. I want to tell Kenyans, straight on their faces, government does not give you.
What do you mean?
It is not government that feeds you. As a matter of fact, we don't eat from government. Government eats from us. So when you have a government, you need a government that will put policies into place that makes the playing field level for every Kenyan so that every Kenyan can work for themselves. And I say during elections, you're not electing President William Ruto to feed you. You're electing him to organize the economy so that every man earns for himself. Fairness in the country. But every time we do elections, there are issues. When is it we will sort these issues once and for all? Because if you look at what is happening now, and people are like, it's either you are with Raila or you are with William Ruto. There are many things that are happening that I don't agree with. Who is the President of the Republic of Kenya today? It is none other but William Samoei Ruto. Period. These other shenanigans you don't recognize. He is the one who is there by the laws that existed then. The laws that exist today. He is still the president. So I want to ask my good friend, and you know I'm friends with all these people. I have said here before, I'm a friend of Raila Odinga. I'm a friend of William Ruto, the president. I am a friend of Uhuru Kenyatta. And the things that are going on here, they are not helping you, neither are they helping me or anyone in the country. For example, they want to say Uhuru's farm was raided by Kikuyus. I want to say those were not Kikuyus, those were thugs.
Criminals.
They were criminals.
Yes.
And if anyone was involved in sending them to go and do that, those people are also criminals. We have laws in this land to deal with issues. And that's the rule of law. The rule of law, I have said here before, it is the fabric that keeps a country together. It is the fabric that keeps a country together. The minute that you are stopped by a policeman, Mijungu, a traffic policeman, like that, and you stop and wait to be served, to be checked and cleared, that is the rule of law. And when you break that rule of law, then it is every man for himself, God for us all. Today was Kenyatta's land, tomorrow it will be yours. Exactly. It will be Isaac Ruto's. Exactly. Yes. And I have not heard anyone speak so seriously about it. I'm expecting that government should make a public statement
on it.
Because tomorrow I'm worried. I'm sure you are.
I'll come back to you.
You understand?
It's a long discussion. But let me get your initial comments, Governor, on the truce. Yes. Do you think it will hold, and do you think it was necessary?
You see, a country is established on the basis of set norms. And we live as a country because we all have to agree to live together as civilized people. And the structures that have been put in place to ensure elections and other institutions are meant to ensure that we live within a clear order. Otherwise, we revert to the state of nature. Now, after every election, we cannot be fighting. We have not reached a stage, and no country has reached a stage where after every election, everybody is entirely satisfied. But we must accept that there will always be a winner. And whenever one wins, we've got to give that person time. Otherwise, we will be at a standstill. Now, it is in order for us to continue discussing and consulting. But this state of creating violence is what is abhorrent. And I want to remind Kenyan leaders, in particular the ones in Azimio, that look, the greatest leaders in the world, I think have been recognized through their adherence to non-violence. Think of as recently as Nelson Mandela and others in history, like the men who led the civil rights movement in the US, others like the ones in India and others. Violence is abhorrent, and therefore it is not a show of weakness on the part of President to say, let's talk.
Okay.
It's a normal thing to do. But there has to be very clear directions on the way forward. We've got parliament that ensures that the democracy that we engage in gives us leaders who can peruse through these things and sort them out. But we cannot open a Pandora's box where we are saying everybody must come to the table. If everybody must come to the table, then what is the use of elections? And I want us to go back to Kenyan history. When we started the IPPG, it was the IPPG that sorted out the problem that had been created at Ufungamana House. Because Ufungamana would discuss a lot, but they would not arrive at a solution because they had no legal instruments to ensure that the discussions they were engaging in could be made use of. Therefore, as far as I'm concerned, the correct route has to involve Parliament. Okay. That doesn't mean no one else will be talking.
The other fact on this issue, Ken, I want to tell my friends in Azimio that there was a game. On one side of the game was Arsenal, William Samoei Ruto and his team, Kenya Kwanza, our side. And there was the other side, Raila Odinga, Azimio, and them. They went to penalties. Whether it was by hand of God or whatever, they lost the game. My friend, that game is done. There is nothing else to do about that election. There is nothing that can be done within our laws. When they need to understand that William Ruto beat them in the game. It was a simple game. Within the set rules that are in IBC and all those forums, they came to Bomas, they did what it is they did. They went to Supreme Court, they did what it, and it pronounced itself. So there's nothing left in that matter. There is nothing left.
How do you then address the grievances if you, because Governor
on these discussions that they have proposed, let them discuss.
Then why do you limit the number of people who comes to the table? Because you feel uncomfortable with
Let me ask you, if we were 10 here, would we be able to negotiate?
Yes.
10 people right here. Everyone speaks for 2 minutes. That will be 20 minutes of just introduction of people who are participating. Yes. And the negotiations that are there,
inclusive
when is it that we will sort the main problem of elections? Every time there's an election and you go to Supreme Court and the matter is finished, Ken Mijungu, it should end there.
Okay.
Yes. You understand?
Okay.
What we need to understand is Kenya's situation is a little bit complex.
Okay.
Because if you look at the results that were announced, you will find that Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga and Mheshimiwa William Ruto, the difference was 200,000 votes. So that really means this guy has just about half
of what the other one.
So it's a unique situation than other places where you'll find there is a landslide of 80% versus 20%. So this is what makes this country. But we need to tell Kenyans.
Yes.
We need to tell Kenyans. This country belongs to all of us.
Okay. I'll come to you. We still have a long session, but before we take the break.
Look at some of the issues that they are putting on the table. Like saying reduce the prices of commodities. Is it believable that our friends in Azimio have no idea how the economy runs? Is it plausible that they do not know that the government of the day has to put in place adequate policies to ensure that productivity rises so that the prices of unga can go down. Surely you cannot start putting on the table things that are not even attainable. Take, for example, the prices of oil. This is a discussion.
I'm told we have to take a break, but this is a discussion that we're going to have on what is on the table and what is up for discussion. Just stay with me on that point, because we are going to begin our discussion from right there. Okay. All right, welcome back to News Hour. Unfortunately, Dr. Evans Kidero running late, but the conversation will have to go on. Pioneer governors here. Actually, the conversation tonight was about pioneer governors and through their eyes, how they look at this country. How's the most important? I see a lot of reaction on social media in terms of my guest today, Dr. Evans Kidero, who says he's still on his way. Isaac Ruto, a pioneer Bomet governor, and William Kabogo, who incidentally, Kenyans love your hairstyle.
Really?
What's happened?
Kenyans love Kabogo.
Kenyans, is it Kabogo or they love hairstyle? Because I see everyone talking about Kabogo's new hairstyle. But gentlemen, I know I cut you short, so let me begin with a text here been sent from one of the members of parliament. This is Clement's lawyer, member of parliament for Sabatia. That's where Musalia Mudavadi used to be. So he says Kenya should be seen to be greater than all of us. Elections come and go, people win while others lose. It's time we embark on uniting Kenyans and giving our president time to reorganize government and put measures in place to resuscitate the economy. Conditional dialogue will serve to plunge this country into chaos and anarchy. Let all parties involved put Kenya first. And the last thing he says is about your hairstyle also. Yeah. So I'll not read it. But gentlemen, that's how most of the leaders are thinking, that it's time that we give dialogue a chance. I want to talk about that. But because I stopped you at the cost of living, how to lower the cost of living, your argument is that it doesn't just drop from heaven.
Yes.
There must be a process.
Yes.
But off the cuff, we were talking about this with Governor Kabogo, and the sentiments are this: the president made a promise, a political promise.
He made a political promise, and after the elections, he had to do what had to be done. He had to look at it as an economic question. You don't go to Uhuru Park and declare that the prices of bananas has gone down unless you are going to bring in a lot of bananas so that the prices can go down. Economics is a fact of life. And come to think of it, the whole world is reeling under serious economic problems. Take, for example, Europe. Europe is reeling under worse economic situation than even Kenya. Prices of energy, that is oil and all that, with the wars in Ukraine and all that, and even foodstuff. Germany, a very strong economy, is now having serious issues whether to subsidize and therefore jeopardize the entire European Union. The whole economics around that is serious. So the answer is not in subsidizing consumption. It is in investing in production. And I think Kenya Kwanza have gotten it right.
Didn't they know that, Governor? Didn't they know that when they were campaigning and making these promises to Kenyans? Because Kenyans are holding them to account based on what was said.
Yes. Hold on, Mijungu.
Is it true?
Some of these things you need to
when
realize
you say
that politics is a different ball game.
Can he finish and then I come to you on this? Yes.
Come to think of it, when the president says, by the time I put the Bible down,
yes,
what does it really mean? By the time he finishes organizing his government, then things will work. But it was not literal.
It's what he meant.
It can never be that literal.
Governor, that's not what he meant. Was it Vichanganya?
And if you really want to believe in that, then you are inciting Kenyans.
I'm not inciting
you are
Kenyans.
Telling them.
Was I the one who went to the podium?
You will be telling them that you can do the impossible.
You know, as Isaac is saying, it's a simple issue here.
Yes.
That was politics.
Yes.
To win the seat. Let me say plainly, I've been elected several times. You make promises
that you can't keep.
No, you make promises hoping that you'll find a way of keeping those promises.
Okay.
When you want a girl to marry, you tell her all sorts of things. But you realize after marriage, things are...
The ball game is different.
Yes. For example, they tell us they found an empty treasury.
Yes.
that may be one of the reasons where there was no money to do certain things.
It's been discounted.
But I agree
Yes.
that subsidy is not the way to go.
Yeah.
Yes. Government has intervention situations where they can intervene, say in policy, in terms of duty and taxes, probably lower taxes on certain things to bring in investors who will start manufacturing here locally, create employment, create money in people's pockets, purchasing power, lower the cost of living. And it takes time.
It takes
Mijungu.
time.
It
How
takes
long
time.
does it take?
But when,
How long does it
when-
take?
A season, for example, maize, you got to plow, plant, and get the
Harvest.
results.
Yeah, but again, what is the cost of inputs? That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they
Address
subsidize the cost of fertilizer, and every farmer is given fertilizer, and then we have rain because we have farmers who just depend on rain, most
yes,
of us.
flood, yes.
But when is it that government will make a policy to help farmers farm with water and
yeah,
not
who don't
rain?
depend on rain, yes.
You
Yes,
understand?
yeah.
And I have seen them going that way. So really, imagining that the prices of food would have dropped the next day after elections is far-fetched.
No, but gentlemen,
far-fetched.
gentlemen, that's not my problem. That's not Kenyan problem. We're looking at our president, and we're looking at what the president promised us. So
yes.
you are discounting his sentiments
You
here
know,
tonight.
I will not speak directly for President Ruto. He can speak for himself. But I'm saying I was governor in Kiambu. I made promises.
Okay.
And I fulfilled 85% of those promises. But they didn't happen in the first 6 months.
Okay.
I had 6 months to deal with MCAs who did not know left or right. I'm not saying they're foolish. It was the beginning of
the
devolution.
outset, yeah.
You understand? The trouble that they gave us, Isaac will tell you. The trouble about devolution, about setting up a government. You cannot set up a government in 5 months and it's fully functional.
Okay.
You
And this is a
understand?
new government.
But
Let
we
me
are
tell
not
you where
saying
the real problem
we are not
is.
saying that we let William Ruto, His Excellency, off the hook.
Exactly.
Of making life bearable for Kenyans. It is in his hands.
He has to
The
do it,
buck
yes.
stops with him.
Yeah.
But the point here is the real issues here is not the price of unga or blah, blah, blah. The question is the relevance of the presidential candidates after the elections. The relevance of the big wigs. They have nothing to do after they lose the elections.
Did you
And
make
I
political
remember-
promises in Bomet you couldn't keep before we get to
before
this?
we get to
did
that.
you keep all your promises in Bomet?
I tried to keep them, but it took time. It can only take time.
So both of you
I
are
could
agreeing
not.
this has to take time.
It has to take
It
time.
has to take time. It
There
can't
is
be
no
instant.
way.
Okay.
In fact, even for the 4 years we were in office, we could not even complete certain very basic things. Like if we wanted to come up with food stores, it took time because like Kabogo is telling you, you all of a sudden realize you have to deal with MCAs who have different ideas on what they want to do. You quickly realize that the treasury has a different idea. They can freeze the money, they may not even release. Now, the president has got to grapple with several issues. But the first one, and which I want to tell you figuratively, is about putting down the Bible, is putting his government to work. How long does that take? He has hardly even put in place the assistant ministers that he was talking about. They are not yet even working. And we are in March. The first year is almost over.
Yeah, 7
but
months.
let me tell you, the real issue is we had serious debate with Mother Karua in Naivasha about what happens with the presidential candidates. They become completely irrelevant after every election. So what they are basically doing is to create relevance for themselves. That's why they are saying, let us operate outside the known institutions that have been set up by law. I had explained to Mother Karua that, look, we ought to allow the presidential candidate to also vie for a parliamentary seat so that he can lead his party in
have a
parliament.
fallback.
So that he can lead his party in parliament. Right now, it's like driving a bus when you are outside. Outside. And they
don't have
are
control.
just trying to drive their buses. And then they are telling some other fellows inside there to drive it for them. Now, they are not comfortable with that. They are simply irrelevant as of now. So for them to be relevant, they've got to get some Kenyans into
Okay.
the streets and
But-
create
but
a
you
crisis.
know-
Yeah.
Is it plausible that will continue creating a crisis after every election?
election.
After
I'm going
every
to talk
election?
about that. I'm going to talk
but,
about
but
that.
we need to
Yeah.
get to a place.
Yeah.
We keep talking about electoral justice. When you are not elected for one reason or the other, rigged or not,
Yes.
because don't tell me Isaac and I are out because we are not popular. These people are very popular. I can tell you that for free. When is it the need and the want of the people will be reflected in an election?
In an election.
When is that going to happen?
That's the most important
And I'm
question.
seeing it happening because the other world, people come and they have a booth. You do your elections from Monday, I think you finish on Wednesday. You enter a booth, you put your finger, it gives you permission to vote. It has pictures, you touch it.
No ballot paper.
No ballot paper, you touch it. That story ends there, and your vote goes straight. There will be no story of, bring the votes to bombers. I don't know. When is it we will invest in true democracy in terms of electing our leaders? Because I don't want to retire at 70 and still see the same shenanigans that are happening today. I want to see a Kenya that is growing. And there will always be one president, unless we change our katiba and say we want a council of presidents. You know, one from each region, 8 of them, the old regional Majimbo, and have one rule every year. That may be actually a solution to these problems, but that's not what our katiba says today.
It doesn't
The
exist
president
now.
is William Ruto, and he needs to realize, it is true, yes, it is also his duty to put the country together. It is duty. If the country breaks in his rule, it will not be said, there was Raila Odinga who brought problems.
I tried that with the president and he told me this country belongs to everyone.
I'm saying
Yes.
it is in his hands to drive.
Yeah.
Yes, he's our president.
Where we landed.
It
on
is,
him.
we are
Looking
following
at
him.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
So the stalemate, for me, discussing is okay. But you cannot go to a table saying, this is what I want.
With preconditions.
Yes.
I want
Then
to
there
discuss-
was no discussion.
I want
Yes,
to discuss
you
the
understand?
preconditions.
These preconditions that are being brought onto the table is completely insincere and unfair to Kenyans, because some of them cannot be addressed in that manner. You don't go rioting so that the economy changes.
Governor, why do you call this rioting? The Constitution protects your right
Yes,
to picket
yes,
peacefully.
yes,
It protects your right.
yes,
When people get to the streets to
Yes.
express themselves,
yes.
until the anti-riot police show up, they're always peaceful. At what point do you think the agenda is to cause chaos?
We used to have that argument even when we were at the university. We used to say we are going to have a peaceful demonstration. But as soon as you get to the streets, you realize that your demonstration actually infringes on the rights of others also to move. Now the question is, you want a peaceful demonstration? Then let's give you an area where there is nobody. We vacate
Say
to
Uhuru Park.
We vacate to Uhuru Park.
Yes.
You come and make all the noises like we used to have in the UK. What was it called? The park
place
where
you would stand and say anything.
you would go and abuse
Yes.
the Queen, abuse the Prime Minister.
Yes.
The question is, if you are so-called picketing and demonstration means you occupy the entire Uhuru Highway all the way to Mombasa Road, and then
Block
Gong
from
Road,
traffic and everyone.
and then you block everyone, including Thika Road. Your rights stop where my rights start. I have a right to live. I have a right to move and say hi to Kabogo.
Okay.
But if you block the highway, is that still the same enjoyment you want? Freedom is relative to others enjoying the same freedom. So we must also enjoy peace. Now, the police have to come to try to maintain order. But then as soon as the police come, you start throwing stones. Then it becomes chaotic. So you blame the police. I'm not saying the police are entirely without blame sometimes, because we've seen them, some of them are doing. But the point here is, let us find a way in which we can allow picketing and demonstration, but that picketing and demonstration must respect the rights of others.
We're heading to the discussion where we are. That's why we are going back to this. But you said what is coming on the table is unfair, insincere to Kenyans.
Yes.
Which one do you think is insincere and unfair to Kenyans before I go to Governor Kabogo?
First of all, when you talk about, when you say you cannot even limit the people and the place to discuss,
Okay.
the laws of the land must give a clear direction. Otherwise, then you've overthrown the civilized order.
How do you address the fact that Parliament is already heavy on one side, and they feel prejudiced by that fact that Parliament is heavy on that one side. So the moment you have a fully pure parliamentary process, then they're outnumbered and outshined. And how do you address it?
Let me tell you,
Yes.
there are presidents before. IPPG sorted out the problems in 1997, and yet Kanu had vast majority. How was it sorted out? When we came back again, there was another one, inter-parties parliamentary committee that midwife the constitutional process, and it was able to deliver.
Okay.
It's not always the real numbers that matter. I remember I was in that parliament, and we were able to negotiate with Akinamada Karua and others, including Kibaki's corner, including Akinapol Mwite.
Okay.
You cannot entirely say that it is the numbers that will determine the direction in parliament. It's a question of a group, inter-parties group.
Okay.
That discusses that which is reasonable.
Yeah, that's why they brought
Ken
even the
Mijungu,
international community.
my
side.
take on the issue of how to go to dialogue.
Dialogue, yes.
We should not go in dialogue with conditions.
Yes.
Let them go to the table.
Yes.
Put your issues on the table. If they disagree with some of the issues that are raised by this other side, we are watching. We are Kenyans. We are watching.
Yes.
But if you just go with a predetermined outcome, then you're not negotiating. You're not dialoguing. You are simply just saying, you do this or we do that. That is holding the country at ransom.
Yes.
Let them go to the table and discuss.
What if they feel prejudiced? Same question that I asked.
I am saying,
As a businessman, would
Isaac
you go
has
to the
given you
table?
an example.
Yes.
I've done negotiations
Yeah.
before.
As a businessman,
as a
would you do
business
that?
person.
Would you do that?
And yes, of course. And I would put it plainly here. It's not about the numbers that you have. Are these genuine issues to be discussed? You know, one of the things that Isaac has just proposed is that once you lose elections, you're irrelevant, which is true. Why is it that we did not change our laws to allow for the official leader of opposition in parliament? So that you can go and check government with your shadow cabinet, paid up people, you know.
Yes.
In terms of, but this situation of, we used to call it winner take all. This is what we are suffering now. And I'm saying, it is true, you cannot ignore Raila Odinga. You cannot. The difference in vote is 200,000,
Yes.
my friend. 200,000
The national election.
at the national level, yes. So he knows about those numbers.
And yet he is irrelevant.
He knows about those numbers. So when he calls for those numbers to line up in the streets of Nairobi,
They
they
respond.
will line up.
Yeah.
And this is where now the card of the president, how he plays it, is important. And I'm happy that he has seen it wise to fast that dialogue.
But he tested it first, which is very unfortunate because lives were lost. Mandamano.
Why are you saying he tested?
Because pre-Mandamano, that's what I'm explaining.
Why do you want to blame him and not this other side?
I'm not going to blame anyone. I'm just saying
Pre-Mandamano.
pre-Mandamano.
Takes two to tangle.
Pre-Mandamano, they said you can go to protest as many days as you can,
Yes.
as many weeks, give us your timetable,
Yes.
tell us the months. If you want to do the whole year, we are okay.
But as
That's what they said. So
fate
that was
has it,
testing.
as fate has it,
Yes.
things happened. You know, they say shit happens. This happened. So it has taken us to this other level. Come to the table and pour your things on the table. Let's listen. What is it that you have? I also would like electoral justice. I have been hit by this in electoral injustice before, and you know it. I've been to my election. Isaac, you know that.
Yeah.
Where the government was on one side and I was on the other side. And I still won in the by-election that was free and fair. And I've said this time and again. Let's fix laws to take our country forward, not just to solve Raila's problem or Mr. President's problems. Let's solve Kenya's problems. How do we make sure that the next election we will not have this shenanigans?
Tell me something, Governor. Tell me something. One of the things that Raila Odinga wants, he feels, because you're talking about electoral justice, he'll talk about electoral justice. He's saying that he needs to understand that he won fairly. And one of the things that he's saying is, show me that I won fairly. Is that a precondition that is unfavorable?
Chief, in our laws, where is he coming in? Go to elections, you're not satisfied, you have so many days to go to Supreme Court. go and fight it out. They brought a truck.
And he did it.
I was watching. They brought a truck of evidence. But I do not want to go to the merits and demerits of that case. That was the process prescribed in our law, in our constitution, right? And he exhausted it. So what is available in our constitution thereafter?
Okay. What is so
You
hard?
understand?
I understand. But Governor, what is so hard? Even you, when you're doing election petition, you'd want, bring the ballot boxes, let's do a recount. What Raila Odinga is asking for. Why is it so hard just to say, well, you have insisted on this matter that you won the election and you want to see what's in the
Can you ask
server?
a question that you have an answer to?
I don't have an answer.
They went to Supreme Court.
Yes.
They did. They brought all their issues there. How they canvass those issues there themselves is the issue.
Which is okay,
Why are they
granted.
given the chance to do that?
Granted.
Yes.
I have just seen a letter from Smartmatics. I have it on my phone.
Yes.
And they completely declined to show what was in it. So that's what Raila Odinga is asking. In the fair, looking at it fairly with election justice, why is it so hard? Why do you think it's so hard just to say, well, you have talked about the server so much. I am the president. I don't have any mandate. IBC has it. But I'm telling IBC to comply with this. Show Raila Odinga what's in the server.
So
What is so hard?
So you are suggesting that the president should be giving instructions to IBC, which we said in the constitution should remain independent. Now, look at it also this way, that the electoral calendar has been discussed and placed in the constitution. Even the period within which judges can look at petitions
Yes.
is clearly fixed. Now, there must have been reasons why it had to be shortened, because you can't leave a country in suspense with no one in charge for 6 months while you do petitions. If you really want to go into every nitty-gritty, then where will you stop? Now, it is in the wisdom of the constitution makers that these timelines are given, so that life must go on.
You know,
we must sympathize with those who lose elections and are unable to get clear answers as to why they have actually lost. But there are certain, there is a certain price for democracy. You must live and let live. Allow others to live as well.
Here before today?
And you had mentioned something that the government had told them, you are free to go and do mandamano as long as you want.
Yes.
The only thing that we failed to do was to tell them the venue. They should go to a venue where it does not interfere with the whole country, including visitors, including the economy. You stop the economy completely.
March 20th.
Then why don't we
March
agree?
20th, Malema walked a distance on that day, and no one stopped them. No one complained about inconvenience. The police were there, and they walked, and it was a multitude more than it was in Nairobi on the 20th of March. What was so difficult?
Only one day, or were there 10 days of that? Remember, even Martin Luther King led a march
Yes.
to Washington. But it was pretty peaceful. There was a bit of skirmish up here and there, but nevertheless, it was clear that it was a one-off thing. If we really have to,
think,
we can go to. I think we should be able to get a venue.
But again,
For picketing.
it's good to have a balanced view
Yes.
of these things. Looking back, if I was President Ruto, on the 20th of March,
Yes,
I would have allowed them to march, as Malema did.
yes,
There would have been no need for another Monday
yes.
and another Thursday, because they did express themselves
On that day.
that particular day. But since now they didn't
was
seem to have
disrupted, yeah.
had that chance, you want to picket peacefully and take responsibility for whatever happens during your picketing. Hopefully not engineered by the police. But we cannot have Mandamano Monday, Thursday. Then it was going to go every day of the week.
No, why don't you even if we want to allow them, even if they want us to allow them for the whole week,
Yes.
let us also agree on the venue.
Correct.
Let them go to Kasarani Internationals
And make all the noise
and
there.
make all the noise there, but not interfere with Thika.
You know the funny thing,
Thika Road.
Ken, on these matters, you say this when you're on this side.
Exactly.
But when you find yourself
On the other side.
other side next time,
It's a
you
different story.
will have another different
Exactly.
story. Because
Exactly.
we
Different
play
story, yeah.
politics,
Yeah.
unfortunately, with lives of Kenyans.
I like what you have said, because you have been on Mandamano before. You must have been on Mandamano.
I've never done Mandamano.
You've always been the government.
I have, no. Like right now, I didn't go to Mandamano, but am I in government?
For the national government, my point is this. When you find yourself on the other side, this conversation changes. William Ruto, the president, has found himself on the other side and agitated to be allowed to walk, to Andamana with Kenyans. We have several videos on that.
That's life.
Yes. Now, why is it so difficult for the president to do exactly what he agitated for? I mean, don't take a position because you're on the other side, because you support the president. But if you take that position, the day things shift for you, what happens?
Do you also know that the president was involved in negotiations? The current president.
I know.
He was on that side.
Yes.
The other team was on this side.
Martha Karua, who's now on the other side, is on this side.
So this thing changes.
But why is it that
must realize
with that knowledge that it's okay to do that, he's agitated for it before and pushed for it when he was on the other side? Now he's the president.
Do you
and
remember,
he knows the effects
do you
of that.
remember,
Why is
Ken,
it so
even
difficult?
at that point, the then president was resisting? It is just natural. It is just natural. We are who we are.
Okay.
I am the president.
Okay.
I don't just take everything.
Let's advance the conversation forward.
This therefore even justifies the fact that we must all swallow our pride after the elections and let Kenya move forward. Because the same fellows who are on this side today will be on the other side the next day. And when they are on the other side, they will want to do what this other one was doing. And then we end up wasting 5 years times 5 years times 5 years equals to your lifetime. So where will we go?
You've mentioned here
and always
with
somebody
Isaac,
losing elections.
About justice, electoral justice. And why will we stop this? How will we stop these cycles of election problems? You talked about the being given a chance to be shown servers. The time that is there is not enough to open the number of boxes. So we are saying, sort this mess by doing voting that does not require that process.
Yes.
You understand? You lose, the elections in the US. You see them tabulating them. As you vote, they are showing.
Real time.
So there will be no time to ask for any server. You understand? It is online. When will we get there? Don't tell us Kenyans cannot vote on computer. How do they register for voting? It's biometric.
It serves the purpose.
Is it difficult for you to know Kabogo on a screen to choose him as governor? You just press with your same thumb. It brings the next screen,
because
MCA.
It serves the interests of the politicians. That's why they're not
to have this
with the kind of budget we have,
this vagueness.
40 billion shilling budget. I mean, electronic would be cheaper. I'm just thinking.
Very true. And simple.
But why is it not happening?
And it doesn't have to be voted in one day. It can be done as you are free going home, enter a booth on your way home. You cannot vote twice.
How? Yeah, because once you vote,
that's it. You're done. You're locked out.
So why is it not happening? Because it serves the interest. Anyway, gentlemen, let's
I don't think anyone is saying we should stop anyone from protesting by peaceful means. Even saying what you want to say through the media. No one is interfering with that. The point here is, must we continue losing lives after every election? And I'm happy about one thing, that tribalism seems to be receding to the background. It is actually disappearing. It's not even an agenda. It's not an issue, even in this current election. So that is a step forward in terms of our maturity. The next thing that we need to mature from is, even if I disagree with you, I must avoid violence. Let us leave violence, kabisa.
Okay.
Yeah, if we can avoid this. And that is why I'm saying, I would rather we designate a place for people to go and complain.
All right. I saw the mock swearing in of Raila Odinga happened at Uhuru Park, and it was largely very peaceful.
Yes.
And people walked away after that. And I just realized that even the current IG was then the police boss for Nairobi when that was happening.
Yes.
I just realized that. But I want to advance this discussion. Now that we've talked about going to the table with clean hands, it's been 7 months. And in these 7 months, Raila Odinga has managed to do one thing, to ensure that he distracts William Ruto from his agenda, because nothing is happening in this country. Most important, and the reason why I wanted the former governors, how do you think the counties are dealing right now? There is no money in the country. money is not being paid, salaries are not being paid. From where you sit, because you are the pioneer, also the Council of Governors chairperson, how do you think the counties are coping, and what is the solution out of this right now?
First, the most important thing is to let the economy function. And I want to tell you that there will only be money if the businessmen go about their job, if the farmers go about their job, if the factories go ahead with the productivity. That is when government can now start collecting the revenue. But if you create a state in which no revenue, first of all, businesses are not functioning, or production is stalled, then you are in trouble. It is even made worse by an election that is held at a period when there is massive drought in the country. Things can't work that easy. So I think county governments require that they be given their share, fair share, and we had insisted, together with Kabogo and other governors, that we got to stick to a very clear sharing of revenue formula that is guided by the Constitution. And I want to tell you a lot of problems that we are now facing. We had made the whistle about 15 years ago, about borrowing, excessive borrowing.
That's when you're in Parliament?
No, Council of Governors. We asked national government to stop over borrowing at that time, because it will definitely mature and it will freeze the money that is available for the local economy. Yes. Because you must then pay the Chinese and the others.
As priority?
Yes, priority, because otherwise you will be frozen in the international economics. You will not be able to function internationally unless you pay your debts. So now the priority right now is to clear the debts that were incurred by the Jubilee government in 2014, 2015, 2017. Now the chickens have come home to roost.
Actually, most unfortunate is that these debts will not end in the next 1 or 2 years. Some of them are long-term debts.
Long-term.
We are collecting more money than we collected 5 years ago.
Yes.
Exactly.
But that money is not going to development. Very little of it is going to development. Money sharing is in the Katiba, a minimum of 15%. Yes. We cried during BBI to get 30%. Government must send money, not government. The Constitution has sent money to county governments. They must
Treasury
make sure,
must follow.
Treasury must make sure money goes to the county governments. Otherwise, how will they function?
And then
a function like agriculture is devolved. Water is devolved. The most essential functions in the human life, most of them are devolved.
Yes.
Health, water, agriculture. Those very serious issues are devolved. So when you younger money for counties, for one reason or the other, bring them to the table on, what do you call it, the one headed by the deputy president.
IBEC.
Bring these things on the table and discuss. Let Kenyans know what is the problem. If problem is borrowing, we then now need to approach those who lend us money. Can we defer payments?
Yes.
Can we make the period longer?
Yes.
If it's 10 years, make it 20, so that we leave enough money for our own development. You will find that in any business, even, like in my business of building homes and selling, if I overborrow and money is going to the bank, how then will I be able to make money by selling houses and most of my money is going to pay loans? So a clever businessman will have limits of how much they can borrow. How can you finance a small business by going to a Shylock who charges you interest of 20% per week? How will you make money? So these are things that this Jubilee government did. Why is it that the economy was very stable during Kibaki's time? What is it that Kibaki did differently? You understand? I know the next question you'll ask me and tell me the deputy president was part of that government.
I will not.
Of course, it's an obvious thing.
Yes,
Look at but the issue is, Ken Mijungu, we need to deal with our overborrowing. If we don't do it, the next 20 years, we will have the same problems. Yes.
Okay.
There is the other question of, even when we have that money, how do we spend it? We got to get the counties to understand that they must allow the money to be spent evenly within the counties, so that there is money in circulation even in the local primary schools, even in the villages, so that economic activities start from the grassroots. We don't just live in Nairobi and we end up discussing about the growth of the economy on the basis only of real estate growth, cement, what? We have to go down back to productivity in the villages. Is our land producing food? Otherwise, we are turning our country into a huge supermarket for Chinese products. The end result, no one knows how to produce in this republic. We no longer talk about what is it that is grown in Kiambu or what is it that is produced in Kiambu. If you go to Central Province, you will see nascent industrial activity that ought to be supported. People are going into serious value addition. You find the youth producing small machines all the way from Kariobangi, going that way. Now, how are we supporting these ones? If we don't go back to support value addition and appropriate technology to be used locally, we only import from China, then we are dooming our economy. Let us rethink. So we should have time for these things. Let's have time.
The other intervention, and as far as counties are concerned, there are many types of borrowing. We're only looking at multilateral sort of borrowing from China for road, for this, for that. There is a very dangerous trend of borrowing in counties also. Borrowing from businessmen.
Yes.
Counties borrow from businessmen?
Yes. When I give you a contract for a road, and I give, like, for example, I left Kiambu with probably 700 million of pending bills. Today, pending bills are 7 billion. You've borrowed money from Kenyans. You're not paying them. They've spent their money to do your roads. How did it get there?
Now they
when
are
did the
bankrupt.
control of budget?
700 million to 7B.
Yes, when did the control of budget allow expenditure of those projects that are not, put alongside some budget? When did it happen? Somebody's sleeping on their job. Why would the control of budget allow in 1 year you have 2 billion shillings available for development, and then you spend in that 1 year 7 billion?
From where?
What covers the 5 billion?
Yes.
Exactly.
You have borrowed. You've put Kenyans out of business. Then you start negotiating which ones will you pay first.
Depending on what you get out of it.
You understand?
How can you make
That's
fresh
money
commitments
management.
before you pay what you've already committed? Who allows you to make these fresh commitments? What happened to the control of budget?
Yes.
What happened? Where have they gone? Because they used to follow these things.
Agnes used to give us a lot of hell.
Agnes,
Agnes, who was the control
Before
budget
approval.
then. Yes.
Yes. She was
You
doing
would
well.
not.
So
If
what,
Miss is there to manage expenditure. But you will find Governor so-and-so, who just left, has left a 7 billion debt. And it belongs to Kenyans. This is worse.
And now the new governor
This
has
is
to start
worse.
thinking of how to...
This is worse than the borrowing from China. Wow. You understand?
And I saw a very interesting thing over the weekend. What they are calling, is it subsidy or something in Muranga, where they are issuing checks. And I saw some heavy guys receiving subsidy of 140,000. And he was told he'll be receiving the same every month. I think you need to invite the
Governor of Muranga.
Yeah, Muranga governor.
What's his name?
Wamatangi?
No,
Matangi
Matangi is
is
Kiambu.
It's Kiambu.
Muranga is Kangata.
Kangata,
Yes, His Excellency Kangata.
I would like you to invite Kangata here to tell us more about what he was doing last week. And I saw there was also the Minister for Finance there. I don't understand.
Before that, Muranga,
I don't understand.
Muranga has a story to tell us. Before that, it was calves being given to farmers.
Yes.
So how do you decide which farmer gets what calf? Why can't they borrow money and pay back?
But I really would like to know where you can issue checks
Of 140.
140,000, 10,000, 30,000, and you will be receiving every month.
You know, Hustlers,
it was on
Hustlers
TV.
Fund. Hustlers
saw it.
Fund is probably the way to look at things. I started a revolving loan fund scheme
Yes.
in Kiambu. And by the time I left, probably there was 350 million with people. And the repayment rates, you will not believe, 98%.
Yes, those people pay their debts.
And they had no security, it's just peer pressure. You know the way Grameen Bank of Bangladesh works? Peer pressure, 2 rupees to every woman, and they pay back. But this culture of giving, where does the government get money
How do you sustain
to give?
that?
How do you sustain giving?
Every month.
Yes. Yeah?
Every month.
You understand?
Interesting.
The amount of money that went to Kazi Mutaani, you understand? If that money was put in a revolving loan fund, Kenyans are hard-working people. That money will be revolving.
Okay.
Today, it will be billions in the hands of Kenyans, and they're hard-working. But you find people very happy. Doctors are doing Kazi Mtaani, fagiaing.
I can hear
You
in the government currently, they are discussing reviving cooperatives. That, in my view, is one of the answers to the poverty that is really threatening the grassroots.
Okay.
We have forgotten all about cooperatives. One of the things that I think is quite interesting now, and I think that's why I'm willing to say, let's give them time. Bring cooperatives. Can you put money and let's have multipurpose circles that loan money at the local level, like Kabogo is saying, to the ordinary Kenyans out there, so that they can produce. Otherwise,
you know, there's a word called cartels in Kenya,
Yeah.
which is used a lot. The first cartel I would deal with if I was president is the cartel of Shylocks. Mama Mboga has 5,000 shillings. The business goes bust, she has to borrow that 5,000 and she will pay 10,000 in less than 3 weeks.
yes.
She has to pay. Otherwise, her house
And
good
she'll
to be
pay.
sold.
I know people who've lost
Everything.
everything
So,
through these
all know.
Shylocks.
We all know.
How do Shylocks operate in Kenya?
Okay.
What controls them? Because I remember we passed a law, you cannot pay more than twice.
Of
What
you
was
borrow.
it called?
What you
Ad
borrow.
valorem rule.
Yes.
Something
Okay.
like that.
Okay,
But
gentlemen.
how is it that they are allowed by government to
To
borrow?
do that. I think it's a free market. I mean, it's between you and the person who's borrowing.
Yeah, but I
It
said
should be
earlier
regulated.
here,
Yes.
I want to tell Kenyans,
Lack of
government
alternatives.
will
lack of
not,
alternatives.
government will
Will
not
not
come
feed
and
you
give you money.
Yes.
Government is not in the business of giving people money. The same way I was telling the regime of Uhuru Kenyatta. Government has no business building homes.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Facilitate us who build homes.
Private sector to build their homes and so on.
Enter into some arrangement with banks
Yes.
because you license them.
Okay.
Tell them 5% of your portfolio
Comes to government.
must go to housing.
Okay. Or of the bank's portfolio.
Yes, the portfolio of every bank. I license you, but I'll tell you, 5% of your portfolio must go to mortgage.
Okay, gentlemen.
Mortgage
we
at
are-
what rate?
Uh-huh.
Is the 10%, you pay 5, government will
pays.
put in 5.
Yes.
And how will government put in money? Not through treasury. Allow that person to be given input in income tax, so that income tax is spent at source.
Oh, okay.
You understand? The bank pays income tax.
Yes.
So from their income tax, let them deduct the 5%
Yes.
and pay government. And everyone will have a home. How is Kigali,
Working.
Rwanda, able to give a house for every government employee? Through these sort of things. Don't subsidize food. You understand? Finance Kenyans to be able to work.
Gentlemen, we are running out of time. If we start this discussion, I'm taking you to where
But this is
you
the
are a
relevance.
master.
Yeah,
He's
well,
a
this is-
master. This is very relevant, but we
Yes.
don't have time. I think we'll have time because he's a
But
businessman.
This is the subject that should be discussed.
And
Not what we are hearing is a priority on the table for discussion.
But right now, you have just agreed that Kenya has to settle at some point, and that's a way of settling Kenya so that we can move forward, so the president has a chance to work. But as we come for our closing remarks, I'd like you gentlemen to take a look at the video of the week. Then as we close, we can have our final remarks on this. The video of the week.
Mumelete mambo ya 50 by 100 mpaka Rwanda. I was really surprised. So the good news on this 50 by 100 story, the good news is that I will be launching maybe in the next 2 weeks or so a new Boma Yangu initiative where from wherever you are now, you can buy our low-cost housing units, even from here.
Exactly, because that's where you stopped. That's why I wanted to play the video of the week. The government has no business doing housing. Yes.
But it can facilitate those of us who know how to do homes.
Yeah.
We will do homes, not by giving us money. Open up the space. You understand? Help people buy homes. Today, my friend, how many people can afford 5 million? Today.
There's a survey that the people who earn 100,000 shillings and above in Kenya, less than 100,000.
You know, our problem again,
Yeah.
Ken Mijungu, I'll tell you the truth, is this charity things we do, borrowing, inaitwaje, kanya. You borrow money, you do, what are these things? Betting.
Yes. Yeah.
That is the biggest problem this country has.
Okay.
Because every other young man wants 100 shillings from his mother to go and bet. We've become a casino. We've become a country full of betting, and nobody wants to work. If you just wait for the day you will win a lottery, in terms of half a million,
you will wait.
You will wait.
You will wait.
Yes.
Gentlemen, we are out of time.
But if government can speak to banks, it is banks' business to sell money. It is banks' business to give loans.
Yes.
I appreciate the fact that instead of Kazi Mtaani, there is Hustler Fund. But what will I do with 500 shillings? You understand, Isaac?
Okay.
We want to be able to buy a home by doing your business to earn you good enough to pay for a home in the next 7 or 8 years.
Okay.
Again, if you want a 70-year-old man to take a mortgage, who will give him?
Who will give him the mortgage
You
for 20 years?
Because he's got... he's done his Bible years, or 70.
Yeah.
These other ones are bonus.
Your closing remarks.
So the government is in the right track in terms of reorganizing the economy. Let them understand that Kenyans, is true, they are hungry. Even though it's not government's business to feed you.
Them. Yes.
But it's government's business to create an environment that Kenyans can earn for themselves.
Okay. Governor, we have a lot. I need to close.
Yeah, I want to say that we want to ask Kenyans, let's continue with the dialogue. Let's discuss. Let's enjoy the freedoms that we have. But we must always remember that your freedom stops where mine starts.
Your rights.
Your rights stop where mine starts. If you want to swing your hand, but closer to yourself. Don't hit at my face. We are asking Kenyans, let us have serious debates about the issues that are on the table, but let us not stop other Kenyans from working.
Okay.
Let's not interfere with traffic. Let's not interfere with the roads. Let's not interfere with business.
Okay.
But also, as you put people for dialogue, each side should look at who are you putting on the table of dialogue.
To negotiate for you.
Put people who will step back, one step back, and say, what are these people saying? How is it we can get to yes? And they should take people who understand that they are